Hey guys, Phantom Phoenix here. I'm here to show you today how I made this wig for my Tokyo Ghoul cosplay. So yeah, this is how it looked when I finished it all. I meant to film it actually on myself, but when I had all my makeup on, I completely forgot to film myself and just took pictures, which you'll see at the end of the video, so let us get into it. So for this wig, I combined two pre-made wigs. I have made wigs before from yarn, and I was not about to do that for this wig again because it just took way too much time, but yeah. So I had a short wig, which is a wig that I actually got from Arta. I don't show it here in the video, but I will put a link in the description of the closest color in the same style that I could find. I did buy the Arta wig in a discontinued sale, so you can't buy the same exact color of the wig that I bought. But I'll put the closest one in the description for you. And then this one here that I'm taking apart is a long black wig that I just bought off of Amazon for the long black wefts. So here I'm just separating all the wefts and making sure that they're in a nice organized pile. If you don't do this, especially for the long wefts, they're going to get very tangled very easily, so you really want to put them in very, organized and, piles to make sure that they don't get tangled. Once I had taken apart both of my wigs, I started to sew them to the wig cap. Now I bought this wig cap off of Amazon, and if I can find the same exact wig caps, I will link them in the description below as well. What I love about making wigs like this is that you can really customize the size, because these wig caps come in varying sizes. I personally have a really small head, so most wigs that you buy pre-made don't really fit me that well. You can't really tell what I'm doing here because, like a smart person, I put my camera at a very fantastic angle where you can't see anything I'm doing. I am just sewing all of the short wefts onto the side that is supposed to be the shaved side of his head. And as you can tell on this wig cap, the sides of the wig cap are a much looser lace type material, and then the middle back is more of a tighter mesh material. So for the looser parts, I'm using that as a guide for where I'm placing all of the short wefts, and I am bringing them all out to the seam that you can see on the wig cap. So once I had all of those wefts in place, I started sewing all of the dark black wefts into place, and as you can see here, there's a little notch on top of the wig cap that I sewed on, which is just a piece of foam that I painted black, and this is to give the ponytail a lot more volume in the end result. So for this, it is going to be a ponytail wig, so what I'm doing is I'm basically sewing the wefts on in the reverse order that you would a normal wig. And I'm also starting with sewing them kind of in a spiral fashion, starting from that little notch that I sewed outward. I'm not really sure if that makes sense, but hopefully from the video you'll be able to tell what I'm doing. you can kind of see a little bit of a better view of what I mean by putting it in kind of a spiral fashion. For the first few lines of wefts, I put them in a complete circle around the little notch piece, but since the notch piece, aka the starting point of the spiral, since it is so close to the top of the wig cap and close to where I'm going to be putting the bang pieces, I only put a few lines of wefts in a full circle, and then the rest of the wefts, all the way going outward, went in a kind of a U shape, and you'll kind of see what I mean by that later on in the video. So here you can get a better idea of what I mean by putting those in a U shape. So on the top of the wig cap, you can see that that lace piece, which is kind of a guide for where the bangs are supposed to go, is where the back pieces are stopping, and then I'm starting at that seam point and then sewing the lines of wefts all the way to the other side where the shaved side of the head is. So once I had all of those wefts in place and the ponytail loosely tied at the top, I started to sew the bang pieces in place. So I'm going to be sewing them basically the same direction as that middle seam is going, so that they're facing the direction that I want them to, which is going to be falling on the right side of the wig if I'm wearing it. So you can see here that I'm sewing them in that direction. So I'm starting from the outside and then going inward and then lining all the wefts and just sewing them on like that. One thing I would suggest is definitely making the bangs as thick as you can if you have the wefts to do so. I kind of regret not making it as thick as I could because the wefts that I was using are a little bit on the cheaper side, so it was a little bit harder to get some volume out of them. So here I am putting the finishing touches on the bang pieces. And something that I did along the edge seam of where the bangs connect up with the shave side and where the back piece connects up with the shave side is I sewed on just a couple of wefts facing the opposite direction of the ones that I just sewed on, and then with a hairdryer I pulled them back the direction that I wanted them to go, and then with heat trained them to go that way so that the seam was a little bit more seamless. I have no idea if what I explained made any sense, but I really hope that you made some sense of that, because I don't really show it very well in the video how I did that. And then what I'm doing right here is I'm sewing another line of wefts along the front side of the wig cap. If I were to leave this empty, you'd be able to see all the gaps between the wefts that I sewed in because they're not going the normal direction that bangs usually go on a wig head or wig cap. So I'm just sewing one line of wefts to help hide the gaps between the wefts and make it look a lot more seamless. Now it's finally onto styling. So here you can see I cut off all the excess fibers from the ponytail piece. I am going to be making a ponytail clip to make it a little bit easier and to get more volume out of my wefts. And then here I had it in a braid just to keep them from getting tangled while I was sewing on all the wefts. So here I'm using some heat to help train the hairs to go in the directions that I want to. If you are using a cheaper wig like I am, please be careful and make sure that your hairs are heat resistant, and because you don't want them to melt. So take a little test swatch and make sure that the wefts that you're using can take some heat. Here I'm just loosely brushing out all the fibers to get most of the knots out, and then I'm going to take a hair tie and tie it around where I want to cut it, and then just chop it all off. So now that that looks super boxy and wonderful, I'm actually going to be taking some thinning shears to cut them down, and I never really see people actually use thinning shears, and honestly they are such a great tool, and I seriously don't know why people don't use them more, because these are seriously a lifesaver. And yeah. So in case you're not aware of what thinning shears are, this is what they look like. Basically one side has a comb type piece and the other side has the blade. So what this does is you'll cut the hair, but you're not going to be cutting all of the hair, so it's only going to cut some of the hairs and kind of thin it out, and it just gives it such a more natural look to the fibers, and you'll definitely see what I mean here when I get finished with the bangs. Using these tools just really makes shortening things and making things more natural without like all the hassle of trying to use normal scissors, and honestly I highly recommend getting a pair of these if you can. I got mine at Sally's Beauty, so they're really easy to come by, and I'm sure that you can find some on Amazon. If I can find some, I will link them down below. Sometimes they can get a little bit pricey for a nice pair, but honestly it's really worth it. I think the pair that I own was around $30, but I'm still using it to this day, and I bought it around 2 years ago, I want to say. So once I got done cutting the bangs, I'm just continuing to train the hairs with some heat, and then I'm going in and trying to kind of fluff up the bangs with some heat and trying to get a little bit of volume that way. It helped a little bit, but honestly, these fibers are so slippery and kind of plasticky that it was really difficult to get any volume with them, unfortunately. So here I am making the ponytail clip, and what I'm using as a base is the skin top from the original wig, and that is my base for my ponytail clip. And then I'm just taking all of my extra wefts and just sewing them on wherever I can fit them and make them look natural, and just adding a ton and tons of wefts. There isn't really a method to the madness here, just sew them on until it looks like a pretty decent ponytail clip is my advice. And as far as how I actually connected this to my wig, I keep saying it's a ponytail clip, but I didn't actually end up making it a real clip. I was going to use a clip, but it just ended up being too heavy, so what I did is I just sewed a kind of a wig comb on top, or on the front of the ponytail clip, and then I just tied, or I also sewed some elastic down the middle. So what it does is it's gonna clip basically into the top of the ponytail stump that I left on the actual wig, and then the elastic will kind of tie around that to make it extra secure. here's the ponytail clip attached, and here I'm just going to be brushing it and then doing the same thing that I did for the bangs, so putting a rubber band around it, cutting off all the extra wefts, and then thinning them down to make them look a lot more natural. Once that was completed, this is the finished wig. I really hope you guys found this tutorial or walkthrough helpful in any ways. So yeah, this was definitely a challenge of a wig to make, and it was a lot of fun, and honestly I highly recommend doing these kinds of projects if ever you can, because they're really helpful with learning how wigs work. So yeah, this was how I made this wig, and I will see you guys later.